we see in the pictures of Krishna and Ashtashaki that it's a female that's playing mridanga, not a man. So we have no objection. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Pandava, that amp in the back, there's a power switch, you should turn it on. That turns on the back speakers. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajanaranjana Yashodanandana Bhajanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajanaranjana Yashodanandana Bhajanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Jaya Jagannatha Jagannatha Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Jayom Vishnupada, Paramahansa Parivrajak Acharya Saraswati Sri Sriman. ISKCON BBT founder, Charles Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupada Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se Kahosh Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopana Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Brajabhuma Namadam Ki Jai. Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Lachal Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shrimati Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. The most beautiful Lordship. Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai, Shri Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai, Samabeta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Going back to home, back to Godhead Ki Jai. ISKCON Los Angeles, New York Yacha Ki Jai. Brihad Madanga Chancellor Book Distribution Ki Jai. International Food for Life Chancellor Prasadam Distribution Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nittai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories. Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada. That's what happens when you spend more than 30 years in one place. It sticks in your mind. Narayanam namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is of our very means of conquest, let us offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Pareshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly attending the Srimad Bhagavatam class and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, whose worship with transcendental songs becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're continuing our reading from the fourth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is entitled Creation of the Fourth Order. We're in chapter 14, which is entitled Story of King Vena. Today's text is 19. Tasya rājño mahā-bhāga Bhagavān bhūta-bhāvanaḥ parituṣyati viśvā-ātmā tiṣṭhato nija-śāsane. Tasya rājño mahā-bhāga Bhagavān bhūta-bhāvanaḥ parituṣyati viśvā-ātmā tiṣṭhato nija-śāsane. Tasya rājño mahā-bhāga Bhagavān bhūta-bhāvanaḥ parituṣyati viśvā-ātmā tiṣṭhato nija-śāsane. Please chant. Tasya rājño mahā-bhāga Bhagavān bhūta-bhāvanaḥ parituṣyati viśvā-ātmā tiṣṭhato nija-śāsane tasya rājño mahā-bhāga Bhagavān bhūta-bhāvanaḥ parituṣyati viśvā-ātmā tiṣṭhato nija-śāsane. Vaishnavas. Tasya rājño mahā-bhāga Bhagavān bhūta-bhāvanaḥ parituṣyati viśvā-ātmā tiṣṭhato nija-śāsane. Tasya rājño mahā-bhāga Bhagavān bhūta-bhāvanaḥ parituṣyati viśvā-ātmā tiṣṭhato nija-śāsane. Okay. Word meanings. Tasya, with him. Rājñaḥ, the king. Mahā-bhāga, O noble one. Bhagavān, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhūta-bhāvanaḥ, who is the original cause of the cosmic manifestation. Parituṣyati, becomes satisfied. Viśva-ātmā, the Supersoul of the entire universe. Tiṣṭhataḥ, being situated. Nija-śāsane, in his own governing situation. Srila Prabhupada's translation for this verse. O noble one, if the king sees that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original cause of the cosmic manifestation, and the Supersoul within everyone is worshipped, the Lord will be satisfied. Please repeat, O noble one. If the king sees that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original cause of the cosmic manifestation, and the Supersoul within everyone is worshipped, the Lord will be satisfied. So it should be noted that the word sees in that first sentence, if the king sees, it's not a passive sees, it's an active sees. In other words, the king must see that the citizens worship the Lord. It's not just, oh, if I see them worshiping, then I know God. No, you have to. That's one of the duties, responsibilities of the monarch or ruler, king. So, Srila Prabhupada's purport. It is a fact that the government's duty is to see, again, not a passive see, active see, to see that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is satisfied by the activities of the people as well as by the activities of the government. There is no possibility of happiness if the government or citizenry have no idea of Bhagavān, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the original cause of the cosmic manifestation, or if they have no knowledge of bhūta-bhāvana, who is viśvā-ātmā, or the Supersoul, the soul of everyone's soul. The conclusion is that without engaging in devotional service, neither the citizens nor the government can be happy in any way. At the present moment, neither the king nor the governing body is interested in seeing that people are engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, they are more interested in advancing the machinery of sense gratification. Consequently, they are becoming more and more implicated in the complex machinery of the stringent laws of nature. People should be freed from the entanglement of the three modes of material nature, and the only process by which this is possible is surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is advised in Bhagavad-gītā. Unfortunately, neither the government nor the people in general have any idea of this. They are simply interested in sense gratification and in being happy in this life. The word nija-śāsane, quote, in its own governmental duty, indicates that both the government and the citizens are responsible for the execution of varṇāśrama-dharma. Once the populace is situated in the varṇāśrama-dharma, there is every possibility of real life and prosperity, both in this world and in the next. Om viśva-ātmā Krishna Prashnaya Bhutale Śrīmati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavani Paschatya Deshtarine Om Agyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtang Sapitang Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Tapana Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishyavangsha Shri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tang Sajiva Sadvaitam Savadutam Purjana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitangsha Hey Krishna Karana Sindhu Dinavando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're understanding from this section of the Bhagavatam that bad leadership is not something new. It's been going on since time immemorial. And as I mentioned in my last class, I think, that Prabhupada stated that in his experience, traveling all over this globe, Prabhupada traveled around the globe 13 times, or we could say 13 and a half times. He almost went around a 14th time. And he said in his experience, people are generally good, but the leaders are bad. And as we are seeing stated here, that when the leaders are bad, then the citizens take that as an opportunity or an excuse to also be bad. So the Brahmanas are instructing Maharaj, O noble one, if the king, meaning you, again, sees not passive see, active see, in other words, it's your duty, as Prabhupada starts out in his Purport. It is the fact that the government's duty is to see that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is satisfied by the activities of the people as well as the activities of the government. So everybody has to be instructed from birth or even before birth, because we know the child in the womb becomes conscious after 7 months. And so the mother, one of the duties of the mother-to-be is to hear Vedic literature, to hear Shastra while the child is in the womb. How do we know that that is effective? We know that from the story of Prahlad Maharaj, not the story, the history of Prahlad Maharaj. That while he was in the womb of his mother, Narad Muni instructed her and he could hear. So when he was born, he was already Krishna conscious, highly elevated in Krishna consciousness, just from hearing Narad Muni's instructions to his mother. So those who are prospective mothers in ISKCON should take that seriously. Of course, as devotees, we should hear as much as possible, regardless of whether we're male, female, whichever varna or ashram we're in, we should hear as much as possible. But it's specifically indicated that the mothers-to-be should make sure that as much as possible they hear transcendental sound vibration, because the child will be affected. If instead of hearing transcendental vibration, you hear some other sound, the child will be negatively affected. If you hear transcendental vibration, then the child will be transcendentally affected. Not just positively affected, but transcendentally affected. So it's very, very important duty of mothers to be. Now here, we may wonder, because in the fourth chapter of the Bhagavad-gītā, Krishna explains that Imam vivashate yogam proktam avyam viśva-ātmā praha manuring vakave pravit, that he instructed this imperishable science, spiritual science, to Vivaswan, who then taught it to Manu, and then taught it to Ikshvaku. So it's coming down father to son. So then why is it necessary for brahmanas to instruct the king, if the kings themselves are supposed to be disseminating this transcendental knowledge? But as Krishna explains, that in time the science was lost and the disciple succession was broken. And it is the duty of the brahmanas, even though, and Vaishnavas, even though the king may be highly elevated and cognizant of spiritual knowledge, still the brahmanas and Vaishnavas should give good instruction. We see, for example, in the case of Yudhishthira Maharaj. Yudhishthira Maharaj was a pure devotee of Krishna, but he was still accepting advice from brahmanas. The brahmana has 6 occupational duties. Patan, patan, yajan, yajan, dhana, pratika. So patan means the brahmanas and of course the Vaishnavas should learn the Vedic literature. Originally the Vedas were one, or was one, we can say, but Vyasadeva, understanding that people were becoming more and more degraded, Kali Yuga was coming, he had it codified. Previously it was just an oral tradition, as we've stated many times, that in previous ages, the majority of people, especially Satya Yuga, they were Shrutidhar. They would hear something once and remember for life. So they could hear the entire Vedic canon and remember it for life. And therefore, Brahmanas were expected to learn at least one Veda. There's a Rig Veda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda, and Yajur Veda. And a Brahmana was expected to know at least one of those in total. And if he could learn more, and that's where the surnames, still in India you'll find these surnames, Dvivedi. Dvivedi means a Brahmana who knows 2 Vedas. Trivedi, a Brahmana who knows 3 Vedas. Chaturvedi, a Brahmana who knows all 4 Vedas. So the Brahmanas are expected to know the Vedas, and not just parrot-like repetition, but understanding the import and being able to use that knowledge to guide the administrators. So in this verse today, we have 2 very important words that Prabhupada also touches on in his purport. Bhūta-bhāvana. Prabhupada translates bhūta-bhāvana as who is the original cause of the cosmic manifestation. And then the next one, viśva-ātmā, viśva-ātmā, the Supersoul of the entire universe. So we've heard these words in other places. For instance, this viśva-ātmā, when you put it together, we know from the prayers of Queen Kunti. Prayers of Queen Kunti are found in the 1st canto, in the 8th chapter, beginning with text 18. And then later on, text 41, she uses this word. Ata viśva-ātmā viśva-mūrti svake what's that? Imam Chindi, I'm forgetting now the Sanskrit. Dridam Pandashu Vishnushu. Let me call it up here. It's an important verse. Yeah, Ata viśva-ātmā viśva-mūrti svake sneha. Yeah, I forgot that word. Sneha pasham amang chindi. Dridam Pandashu Vishnushu. So she's saying in that verse, O Lord of the universe, soul of the universe, O personality of the form of the universe, please therefore sever my tie of affection for my kinsmen, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. So one may wonder, what does that have to do with King Vena? Again, that word viśva-ātmā is mentioned, but in the purport, Prabhupada makes some statements that are directly related to what's happening here in the fourth canto. So Prabhupada says, a pure devotee cuts off the limited ties of affection for his family and widens his activities of devotional service for all forgotten souls. So sometimes people think that devotees, Vaishnavas, they're running away from family responsibility when they take sannyas, especially. Or even when we first join as brahmacharis, because most of us are coming from non-Vaishnava culture. So it may seem that we're abandoning the family. But Prabhupada is explaining here that the Vaishnava, the pure devotee, is cutting off the limited ties of affection for his family and is widening his or her activities of devotional service for all forgotten souls. The typical example is a band of 6 Goswamis who follow the path of Lord Chaitanya. All of them belong to the most enlightened and cultured rich families of the higher castes. But for the benefit of the massive population, they left their comfortable homes and became mendicants. We know from Sri Goswami-Ashtaka, Jankbartuna Ashesha Mandalapatim Sada Tuchavad. They gave up the Mandalapating means Mandala means association or group. Pati means leader or a very important person. So they cut off their connection to all the important big people of their time, and they took to the path of mendicants, wearing only kopin and not eating very well or sleeping very long like that. Why? For the benefit of the massive population. Prabhupada goes on, without doing this, no one can be qualified as a brahmana, a king, a public leader, or a devotee of the Lord. In other words, this attitude is a must. We must, if we are actually Vaishnavas, we must have this attitude of not that you neglect or don't have any affection for your immediate family, or in the case of women, especially family on both sides. That's why Kunti said, Pandushu, Vishnushu. Pandushu means her sons from Pandu, the Pandavas, and Vishnushu, her paternal family line. She wanted to have that connection broken so that she could broaden her activities and she could fully dive into the ocean of love for Krishna. So Prabhupada goes on, the personality of Godhead as an ideal king showed this by example. Sri Ramachandra cut off the tie of affection for his beloved wife to manifest the qualities of an ideal king. So the king is being instructed by these brahmanas that you have to have the welfare of the citizens in mind. It is said that the king should see the citizens as his children, praja. And just as one may have general affection for children, but you have particular, stronger affection for your own children, so similarly the king is supposed to see all of the citizens as his own children. So he should have this deep-rooted desire to take care of them. Kshatriya means one who will put their life on the line to protect others, protect the citizens at large. So that should be the mood of the king. Now, going back to today's verse, that Krishna is the original cause of the cosmic manifestation and the Supersoul within everyone. So we just touched on the Supersoul aspect from Kunti's prayer. Now the original cause of what is this cosmic manifestation? Krishna explains clearly in the Bhagavad-gītā that it's composed or comprised, you can use the word, of 3 modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And in the Bhagavad-gītā, specifically in the 14th chapter, those modes are described clearly. In this 5th verse of the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad-gītā, Krishna says, Sattvaṃ rajas-tamas iti guna prakritis sambhavaha nibadnanti mahā-bhāgo dehi dehinam avyayam. Now this is very important. It touches on an ongoing controversy in ISKCON. I don't want to get anybody's collar bent out of shape, but we have to go by, if we're proper Anugas, we have to follow Prabhupada's presentation. Don't bring in other people's understanding. You have to follow Prabhupada. So the verse translates, material nature consists of 3 modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When, this word is very important, when the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes. So why is that word when so important? Because there's a class of devotees who say that we were never in the spiritual world. If you are a conditioned soul, you were always a conditioned soul, and now you're being given a chance to go to the spiritual world. But that's what Krishna is saying here. He says, when the eternal living entity comes in contact, which means at some point you were not in contact with the material nature consisting of the 3 modes. Extremely important. Now, and as Krishna says, when the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes, which means, again, at one point we were not conditioned. These so-called devotees who say that we were always conditioned, and now we're being given a chance to go to the spiritual world. But Krishna's not saying that. He says, at some point you were not conditioned. When you come in contact with the material nature, then you become conditioned. And Prabhupada makes it even more clear in his purport. The living entity, because he is transcendental, has nothing to do with this material nature. Not that we were always in contact with material nature. We have nothing to do with this material nature. Still, because he has become conditioned, again, very important these words, because he has become conditioned, meaning at one point we were not conditioned. Now that we have become conditioned by the material world, he is acting under the spell of the 3 modes of material nature. Because living entities have different kinds of bodies, in terms of the different aspects of nature, they are induced to act according to that nature. This is the cause of the varieties of happiness and distress. So again, very important. Maybe somebody can get the door. Somebody's at the front door. So these points are extremely important to think about. Again, there's a whole class of devotees in ISKCON and outside of ISKCON who don't accept this. They say that those who are in the material energy have always been in the material energy. And now they're being given a chance by the process of Bhakti Yoga to go to the spiritual world. But that's not what Krishna says, and that's not what Prabhupada has presented to us. That's why Prabhupada says, back to home, back to Godhead. He doesn't say, I'm giving you a chance to go to Godhead. He's saying, go back to home, back to Godhead. That means we were there at one point. So again, don't be confused. People will quote all kinds of, this Acharya said that and this one. Well, we are supposed to be following Srila Prabhupada. So whatever understanding we get from Prabhupada, that's what we accept. Now some also speculate that, well, Prabhupada thought that we couldn't accept the truth of the fact that we were always conditioned. Therefore he says, no. Prabhupada has clearly stated that, as I put on the group chat last night, that interpretation is only required when something is not clear. When something is clear, no interpretation is required. So if you find that you have to interpret something, that means maybe it's not clear to you, but that doesn't mean it's not actually clear. So Prabhupada made it clear that he was giving us the exact understanding that Krishna is presenting. That's why he entitled his Bhagavad-gītā, Bhagavad-gītā as it is. Because he's not interpreting anything. He's giving you what Krishna wants you to know. So don't, again, be swayed by somebody who says, well, Prabhupada kind of didn't want to give. No, Prabhupada gave everything clearly, and that's what attracted me. Because I had read so many spiritual books about thisism, thatism, but when I read Prabhupada's Bhagavad-gītā as it is, it was so clear. Very, very clear. So, take Prabhupada's words at face value. He wanted us to do that. He said clearly, I'm presenting everything as it is. No interpretation required. If you find you have to interpret something that Prabhupada said, then maybe the problem is with you, not with Prabhupada's statement. And here in this 14th chapter, modes of material nature, in this particular verse, verse number 4, you can go back and read it later on, verse number 5, Krishna is saying clearly himself that when the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, he becomes conditioned by those modes. And Prabhupada clearly states, we have nothing to do with it. Still, because he has become conditioned by the material world, he's acting under the spell of the three modes of material nature. So this Vena, he was obviously not in the mode of goodness. Kshatriyas in general are supposed to be mostly in the mode of passion, if not completely. But he's not even acting on that platform, because he's not having the best welfare of the citizens in mind. He's actually in the mode of ignorance. And this fall down of the Kshatriyas, especially as we see here in Kali Yuga, actually could be traced back to a misconception or bad action of a Brahmana. We know that Shringi was born in a rabbinical family, rabbinically trained, but because he was not fully realized, not very advanced, he cursed Maharaj Parikshit to die. And after the death of Parikshit, the downfall of the royal order began. As Prabhupada said in a lecture recently, we were hearing that at one point monarchy was the system of rulership all over this globe. But when the monarchs started looking out more for their own welfare than that of the citizens, then eventually monarchy was abolished. And whatever vestiges remain, like in England, it's just show bottle. It's just, they have no power. The King of England has no real power. It's the legislature, they have the actual power. Now, later on in the Bhagavatam, there's a very nice verse that explains how it is we keep ourselves in this condition. It says, Eka parituṣyati jantur, eka esha paliyate, eko nabhungte sukritam, eka esha chaduskritam. That everyone, all of us, we're born alone, eka esha, eka parituṣyati jantur, eka esha paliyate. So jantu, birth, everyone is born alone, praliya, death, everyone dies alone. And alone we have to enjoy or suffer the karmic reactions to our activities. So everyone is in that situation. If we are in contact with the material energy, we've been conditioned by it, then we're in that situation. We're born alone, we die alone, and we're actually creating our own future, because we will have to suffer or enjoy the reactions to our good and bad deeds. The Vaishnava presentation is to rise above even good karma. We want to be on the platform of nice karma, which is indicated in this verse, today's verse, that you please the Supersoul. If you can be induced to please the Supersoul, then you rise above the platform of karma. Then you're on the platform of nice karma, where whatever you do, because it's meant for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, does not produce any material reaction, good or bad. Simply enhances our future relationship with the Supreme Lord. So that's what Bhakti Yoga is all about. That's what the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is created for. And this is what we have to offer to the public. That, yes, everybody may try to be good, but there's a platform beyond that, Shuddha-sattva, where your activities, because they're on the order of the Supreme Lord and are meant for His satisfaction, they don't produce any reactions, good or bad, on the material plane. So therefore, everything the devotee does, because otherwise, everything that we do is producing some reaction. If we're not doing it on the devotional level of existence, then everything we do, every breath we take, every step we make, we're killing some living entities, and technically, the karma should come on our heads. But if we're acting for Krishna, we're going out to 42nd Street to chant Hare Krishna for the benefit of the population at large, then if you accidentally step on an ant or whatever going down the street to the subway, you don't get any reaction for that because you're on Krishna's business. You're not on your own business. Otherwise, everything we do is going to produce some reaction, good or bad, that we have to enjoy or suffer. So some people only want to see the good reactions. I give in charity, I plant trees, whatever good deeds I do. But there's also concomitant bad reactions that you cannot avoid. It's not avoidable. And even if you become so pious that you are promoted to the higher regions of this universe, namely the heavenly planets, still at some point, your pious credits run out. And you just disappear. This is described in the Mahā-bhāga. That on the heavenly level of existence, people don't go through the pangs of birth like we do here on the earth. The couple get together, they have a child, and immediately the child grows up to be indistinguishable from the parents. Immediately. They don't go through teething and colic and all that stuff. They appear to their parents, and then immediately they grow up and indistinguishable from the parents. And then on the downside, after living for tens of thousands and if not millions of years on the heavenly platform, all of a sudden one day the person disappears. There's no death, there's no funeral pyre, they just disappear. Because their pious credits have run out and boom, they're gone. They come back down to this earthly level of existence. So we don't want to go through necessarily either one of those. We don't want to be in a situation where we take birth and we're instantly, and nobody's ugly there. Everybody's beautiful, handsome, beautiful like that. Everything is perfect, practically. Once in a while, the demons may attack. They're not immune from distress once in a while. But generally speaking, there is no material distress. Everybody there is happy, beautiful, handsome. It's like an ongoing kirtan mela, good prasadam, nice music. Everything wonderful. But devotees don't even want to go there. Ultimately, mama janmani janmanishwari, devotees don't even want to necessarily go back to Godhead. They just want to please Krishna by actively trying to deliver the conditioned souls from the misery that they're in. And therefore this morning we heard that section from the Chaitanya Charitamrita where Lord Chaitanya is inducing Lord Nityananda, don't come to Jagannath Puri every year. Yes, I understand you want to see Lord Jagannath, it's for your own satisfaction, but give up the desire to go to holy places and see the Lord just for your own satisfaction and stay in Bengal and preach. So this preaching work is most important. That is the way to please the Lord. Here it's being mentioned that the king should see to it that actively see to it that the citizens engage in activities that are pleasing to the Lord. So that is the most pleasing. And it's not very difficult. It's not that we have to be big scholars and write, commentaries and no. Just chant Hare Krishna in public, distribute transcendental literature to the public, distribute prasadam to the public. Prabhupada has given everything that we need. We don't have to scratch our heads how to make it happen. Book distribution, prasadam distribution, Harinam, festivals. That's another aspect. Whole big festivals. Prabhupada said, what we're doing on a small scale, we could do on a huge scale if the government will support us. Instead of having a festival in Washington Square Park coming up not too far from now, we should be ready. June is not that far away. But if the government would support, we could do it in Shea Stadium or Yankee Stadium. We could have 50,000 people in attendance if the government would support us. We could distribute, rather than a few thousand plates of prasadam, we could distribute 500,000 plates of prasadam in one shot. But that requires an enlightened government. And that's, since the world is transitioning mostly towards democracy, then there's no one monarch that we can convince. We have to convince all the people. That's the difference. in a democracy, because people supposedly vote for their leaders, they have to be convinced, first of all, they have to be properly educated as to what is the goal of life, and then they have to be educated how to recognize a leader who will help them accomplish that goal. All right, so those are some of the points from today's verse and purport. If there are some questions, comments. Yeah, can you take the mic over there? Somebody has a question. The mic is there? Oh, okay, they have it. They already have it, Mataji. They already have the mic. Okay.
Let me hold it for you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for the class.
Hare Krishna.
Two questions, Prabhu. One is in regards to this question that you said you don't want to talk about it a lot, but you said some devotees, they say that we were never in the spiritual world because we cannot fall down from there. So what is there, like if we say that we were there, then what is the reason to come out of there? Do we know?
That's a good question, but it's been asked repeatedly and the answer is the same: free will. Yes, nobody falls from the spiritual world, because in the spiritual world there's no Maya to induce you to fall down. Here in the material world, Maya is always, come check this out and check that out. It's the same thing: money, women, sense gratification. She's presenting the same thing, but she knows how to package it in such a way that again we're attracted, and again we're disappointed, and again we're attracted, over and over again. So that's not there in the spiritual world. There's no Maya trying to get you to fall down. Come with me and I'll show you some sense. No. But free will exists. That's part of the package. Krishna is independent, is supremely independent, and is parts and parcels of minute independence. And we can express that minute independence by wondering what it will be like to be Krishna. Because in the spiritual world, whether it's in the Vaikunthas or in Goloka, Krishna is the center of everybody's attention and attraction. So as living beings, we're conscious, we see this, we can wonder what it will be like to be in that position, to be in the position of being the center of attraction and attention. But we can't experience that in the spiritual world. So therefore Krishna has created, very kindly, this material realm where we can try to experience that. We can try to experience what it's like to be the center of attention and attraction. And we see this is one of the main causes of friction between us as conditioned souls. Because I want to be in the numero uno, as they say. I want to be in the center, and you want to be, therefore we clash. I have my ideas, you have your ideas, and therefore we clash. So the answer to that question is very, very succinct. You cannot fall from the spiritual world, but you can leave on your own volition, your own will. Otherwise, the living entities in the spiritual world would be like robots. If they never had any opportunity to leave by their own free will, that means everybody would just be, yes, Krishna, whatever you say, Krishna, yes, like a robot. But we're not robots. We're eternal living beings with eternal emotions and desires. Once we have turned away and we have come to this material world, we just have to be convinced to act in such a way that we can be readmitted to the spiritual family in the spiritual world. And even that is also free will. We see sometimes people take to the path, and by free will they again leave. But by Krishna's mercy, whatever progress was made is not lost. So when they inevitably come back, they pick up where they left off and they continue making progress. And when we get to the 100% stage, then again we're allowed to enter into the pure Shuddha Sattva atmosphere. And Prabhupada was asked once, well, Krishna says that once you go back, you don't return. to this world. So does that mean that we lose our free will? Prabhupada said, no. Eternally you have your free will. You can always come back again if you want, but you don't want to come back. He gives the example of putting your finger in fire. As children, we're all curious. You stick your finger in some fire, you get burned. You never want to do it again. Doesn't mean you can't do it. You can do it, and you can stick your finger in again, but you don't want to do it. You give up that attraction for sticking your finger in fire. So once we've come to this material world and we go back to the spiritual world, we still have free will. We could repeat the process, but because we've already been burned coming here, we don't want to do it again. So free will is the key to everything. Yes, Barsa, Bhakti in Barsa.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. Thank you for the beautiful class. Now, this point we are discussing right now about eternally conditioned and eternally liberated thing. And at one point of my life, I was also very confused, and then I was searching, and I found in one of the purports, or later of Prabhupada, he was telling that actually we don't fall from the Golok Vrindavan where we are in like Sakharas, Madhureras, or parental ras, all those 5 rasas, we don't fall from that position, but I think he was talking about there are like, even if when in liberated states, there are different states like in Brahman platform or something like that, and we fall from something like that, but not really from, if I was a gopi in Vrindavan, I don't really fall from that. He was telling something like that.
Nobody falls. That's the whole point. You can leave by your own inquisitiveness to imitate Krishna. Now, Brahman, Prabhupada said once, is a fallen position. Like the Mayavadis, they want to go to Brahman. But Aruya Krishna Parang Padam Tata Patantyada, because their intelligence is not pure, they want to merge. But as living entities, we're active. So after some time of being in Brahman, if you're not qualified or desirous of going and being active in the spiritual planets, in other words, worshiping Krishna, then you have to come back to this material world. So Brahman is considered in one sense a fallen position. Yes, it's above just being in the material world suffering, but how long can you just exist? That's the sat portion of reality. You're just existing. But Chit and Ananda are missing. And therefore, if you're in the Brahman stage, you come back to this material world to be active. Because a living entity, the spiritual soul, is by nature active. We can't just exist. See, no, that doesn't satisfy. So if we're not spiritually active, which means ultimately surrender to Krishna, worshiping Krishna, engage in activities with Krishna for Krishna's pleasure, then we have to come back. And Prabhupada used to say, all these big Mayavadis, sannyasis, they claim that they're liberated, but we see they're doing material activities. They open hospitals, schools, this, that, because they have to be active. So on the spiritual platform, everyone is satisfied. It's not just only the gopis and the cowherd boys. Everyone, if you read Bhagavad-gītā, it clearly states that every living entity that's in the spiritual world thinks that their position is topmost. They're happy. It's not that those that are on the Vaikuntha planets are hankering to go to Goloka. No, they're happy by their nature, because every one of us has a different nature. Every one of us is different. Technically, ontologically the same, but still different. We have different desires. So somebody's very satisfied worshiping Lord Narayan in awe and reverence. They're very happy for eternity. It's not that they're hankering somewhere in the back of their minds that this is a less perfect stage, I want to be a cowherd boy in Goloka. They're happy. So the fall never happens. Nobody falls from the spiritual world. But the desire to experience the position of Narayan or Krishna can become manifest. Because again, we're living beings, we're conscious of what's going on. And consciously, I may desire to experience that position, and we can't experience that in the spiritual world. It's not that Lord Narayan is going to, step down for a day so one of his servants can be Narayan for a day, or no, if you have a desire to be Narayan or Krishna, then you have to come to the material world to try for that. And you never achieve it. You can never achieve it. Krishna is eternally Krishna, Narayan is eternally Narayan, and the servants are eternally servants. It's just a question of what rasa, as you were saying, appeals to you the most. And where you feel right, everybody feels exactly right in their position. Again, it's not that the coward boys are designed to be Mother Yashoda or the other way around. Mother Yashoda, by her nature, is happy being Krishna's mother and telling him what to do and chastising him. Whereas somebody else, another soul, can't imagine chastising God. You see? But it doesn't mean that it's a lesser position. Everybody there is satisfied. Does it make sense? You can't turn it on?
Yes, it's clear now.
Okay. All right, maybe time for one more. Yes, Satchidananda and Priya? Or you had something, Mataji? If you do, you already have the mic, so go ahead.
Quick. The experience of becoming a book distributor is so revealing about the conditioning of the souls. Yesterday we were at 14th Street and we're in this narrow tunnel and the ceiling is low and the walkway is very unyielding. It's very narrow. So people are coming at you both directions very intensely and just standing there trying to get people interested in a book. Finally you get one person's interest, and even when they have some curiosity, they refuse to give some cash. I'll take the book, but I don't want to give in cash. So this is, it's a concentrated epitome of the modes of ignorance and passion. So another book distributor, I was complaining, and they said, don't worry about it. Look, this is the mode of passion and ignorance, and you're not going to break through it. You're standing in the middle of this flood tide of people. How are you going to break it? And so the solution...
How are you going to break it? Yeah, go ahead.
How you break it? The solution is to feel confident because you're listening to the holy name, and you fill yourself with that, and you can stand in the middle of that riptide of passion and ignorance and not feel any pain. And people respond. That was my experience.
Yes. If you take shelter, that's it. Book distribution forces you to take shelter. And if you take shelter of Krishna, then you see how Krishna is controlling everything. How he sends that one person out of 100 or 1,000 that will stop. Maybe they won't give, some Lakshmi, but then the next one will give enough to cover the book that you gave to that person.
That's exactly what happened.
All right, well, last one, Satchidananda and Priya. It's 9 o'clock.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I heard from some devotees that Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in his books that it takes 3 lifetimes to go back to Godhead. So I just want to ask you regarding this. 3 lifetimes to go back to Godhead.
They would have to produce a quote, because Prabhupada said clearly over and over, don't be lazy. Go back to God in this life. He said, if you stick to the principles, chant Hare Krishna, counting numerically as we've been asked, 16 rounds minimum, he said you will go back to Godhead. So who do we believe in? Prabhupada said, it's desirable, not only desirable, it's completely possible. It's up to us. If we put in the work, sincerity, we're serious, why would Krishna not? Krishna wants us to come back. But we have to convince him by being serious and sincere and pleasing him by at least participating. And that's why this society is so wonderful. Even those who don't necessarily go out every day, just by the activities they engage in, maintaining the temple nicely, they're also preaching. Because now somebody's ringing at the doorbell. So anybody who comes here, or this morning, Hansarupa was saying that somebody told him that from the hotel across the street, Holiday Inn, there are certain windows where they can see, through our windows, they can see the deities. So that's Agyata Sukriti. By maintaining a beautiful deity worship here, even people who don't come into the building, they get benefit. Some of those hotel rooms across the street, they can see, through our windows, they can see The deities, yeah, those big round arched windows up on the mezzanine level. There are some people who can see through those windows and see the deities. So by maintaining the temple nicely, any activity we do in ISKCON, the entire society is meant for spreading Krishna consciousness and for pleasing Krishna. So everybody gets some benefit, not just those who go out every day and face the public. They're like the front line, they're like the soldiers. But like in an army, soldiers have to be maintained. They have to be given weapons, they have to be given food. So everybody who participates gets benefit. And if we stick to following the principles and chant Hare Krishna, 16 rounds minimum every day, Prabhupada said, you will go back to Godhead in this lifetime. So try for it. Varṇāśrama-dharma ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.